My name is Cordy Ryman, and I'm a painter and sculptor. You know, when I was a kid, I got very involved with sculpture first, and drawing, and then later on I got involved with painting. Sort of as a late teen, early 20s, I started painting. I always liked the sensation of creating a thing that you would get from sculpture, as opposed to sort of a prop, which was sort of the sense I would get when I painted on canvas. When I first started painting, it was more like collage elements, and then gradually the collage elements became more sculptural, and the things that I would sort of incorporate into the paintings have changed, you know, over the years. I mean, there have been periods where I worked with sort of more metals and plastics and found objects, and then the last few years it's been mainly less found objects, like found outside of the studio, and things that I would find in my studio. So there might be parts of older works, or you know, just materials. I have like a strong need to make something, and that's sort of the sort of driving thing. I was like, I have to make something, and then so I'll find inspiration after that. Like, you know, I need to make whatever. I mean, whatever is sort of at hand will help inform what it is that I'm going to make. But it's not like I have some sort of inspirational idea and then I execute it. Although sometimes I do, but what I sort of tend to do is I react to things, whether they're spaces or whether they're, you know, like when I have a show and I'm presented with a space, and then, you know, whether anyone else is going to be there or not, and Kyle is going to be there, and I like his work and I like the way he sort of approaches things. But I mean, working with his work in mind and with the space in mind was perfect. I mean, it gave me a sort of starting point in terms of my thinking. When I saw pictures of the space, it was the rafters and the ceiling, and the first thing that sort of struck me, and I knew that I wanted to do something that would, you know, work with that. And I'd also seen pictures of Kyle's telescope sort of early on, and so the challenge for me was like I wanted to do something with the rafters, and then something that was going to play nice with Kyle's telescope, and I sort of went from there. And so I sort of thought of that piece as kind of like an extension of you know, bringing the ceiling down into the space and sort of extending it, and it would work with the telescope in the sense that it wouldn't require a certain view, and it could be obstructed partially, and it wouldn't matter. But it would also, like, you know, bringing the ceiling down, he has something that's looking up, would like sort of open, I don't know, be sort of a celestial like relationship. So. I guess it's been a while since I did one like that on that scale, you know, sort of a little bit larger. I sort of always work in a lot of different modes, and that mode is sort of the more painterly stuff is something that I've always done. A lot of times I will start this way. At some point that might all get completely covered, so you wouldn't see it. But if you pulled the scraps off of some of the other pieces, you would find stuff like that underneath sometimes.
Well, my name is Kyle Johnson, and in terms of medium, I would probably say if I just had a gun put to my head and said, "What do you do?" I would always just say that I draw, because I feel like that my medium is probably the pencil. In order to build the things that I draw, I have become very interested in materials that are paper related. All from wood all the way to the thinnest of papers, and chipboard, cardboard, those type of materials have become kind of the materials that I work with, largely because I'm able to do things with them that enable my sculptures to look like my drawings. There is not one specific way that I ever go about making a piece. It usually comes from what I call, when I decide to make something like this, for instance, it is always a perfect storm coming together. It is things like watching every single documentary I could on the universe for like the last few months, and just becoming so completely while I'm working in the studio, I'm just listening I've just watched every documentary possible on space and the universe and going to Mars and the moon, and I just became really into that, while at the same time was having lots and lots of conversations with friends about those same topics, while at the same time I came up with this idea that I wanted to build a sculpture that was a study in cylinders. And it was just like, this thing is, it utilizes the cylinders down to the very smallest all the way to a 36 inch and everything in between. And so it was that challenge of what would be the coolest thing I could build that is like a study in cylinders, And then with the Netflix and watching the documentaries, and then going up to the Griffith Observatory and checking out the new planetarium that they have up there, all of those kind of things were all happening within about 2 months of each other, and they all collide to decide to make, I was pretty set on building what I was going to build before I knew that was going to happen, but I will say that knowing that I was going to be showing with Cordy, and like I was talking about perfect storm kind of thing, I have been wanting to get a little more color injected into my work lately. Knowing that I was showing with Cordy, who's just like the color man, it really got me thinking about how in the last few sculptures I've had, they've been mostly brown paper with some color elements. But with this thing, I wanted to take the conversation kind of away from paper, and away, not necessarily away from paper and cardboard, but I just wanted it to be a little more like, what is this? What are these materials? What is he using to make this stuff out of? A good way to do that is to color it, paint it. And so this telescope was probably painted 5 different color schemes. I have photographs of every one of them. This thing was painted, repainted, painted again, until it, I just thought about color a lot. Color. In terms of the pivotal piece, I'm going to choose this one as well. One, because it's a pretty gigantic thing that took a lot of effort and problem solving to get accomplished. But I think that going back to what I was talking about, covering stuff with paint and getting into color a little more, I think that, this piece has kind of sparked something in me that I'm definitely going to pursue in further pieces, which is to use I've been using a lot more styrofoam, a lot more metal tubing, a lot more wood, and a lot of paper too, and cardboard, but all of that stuff can kind of get hidden now, which I'm kind of interested in. For a long time, I wanted people to know what I was building these things out of. Now I'm not trying to hide it, but I have just heard so much about Cardboard Boy that I just kind of want to start covering things with latex paint. Back in the day, I was doing a lot of stuff with color, but over the last few years, my drawings have been strictly ink and pencil and gray wash. With everything I wear and everything she wears and a couple other drawings recently, I was drawing a lot of clothing, and so it just seemed like color would be a good time to get into color. And then showing with Cordy and knowing that I was going to be up against a bunch of color, I wanted to get into color, So the drawings are packed with that kind of stuff too.